Hello and welcome to a brand new episode of the Civic Action Podcast, the voice of the next generation. My name is Maurice, and I'm the founder and executive director of Virtutem Populo. Virtutem Populo is a student-led 501c3 nonprofit organization dedicated to promoting civic engagement and community involvement among youth in Miami-Dade County. Today, we are filming our second episode of the second season of the Civic Action Podcast, and we're very excited to have two amazing guests with a student-led passion project organization, Know Your Rights Weekly. So, ladies, introduce yourself. Tell us a little bit about yourself and why you do what you do.
Hi, I'm Alyson.
I'm Vanessa.
And we have a newsletter called Know Your Rights Weekly.
So basically, we started this last summer around July because we were just on FaceTime talking normal, and we were talking about our parents' own problems with understanding law and also our problems understanding law. We're just teenagers, and we were like, why don't we just do something about it ourselves? Like, we see so many people in our own community doing so many things about problems in the area. We could do it just as well. You know, we started making blogs, researching it, talking about what's most important, like FAFSA and like immigration services and everything.
And yeah, so basically the whole point of our newsletters is every week, used to be Sundays, but we recently moved it to Mondays. We send out a newsletter basically letting you know your rights about certain topics or just in general. And it basically dumbs it down for you in a way that anybody can understand it. Anyone that has had any level of education can understand it, because we feel like just because you might not have had the privilege or opportunities that other more educated people have had in their lives does not mean that you should not understand things going on in your community, the rights you have, and you know how to better your life and etc.
Absolutely. What an amazing mission. So you guys send out every Monday this newsletter to different students or just members of the community in general, where they will learn about different rights they have, whether that's constitutional rights or educational rights or anything of the sort.
Yeah, we have done a few different ones that I can think of where, like she said before, FAFSA rights, which basically we spoke of like if you were a child who had went through foster care, have any learning disabilities, what advantages you can get and like what kind of help you can get from FAFSA that other students might not receive, because again, like students that have grown up in a very difficult situation, such as, you know, foster care or coming from immigrant parents or moving around because of the military, a lot of the times they don't know exactly how they can get help or where they can get help. And one thing about our newsletters is that we do provide links to all these like organizations. Like when I was writing the one for FAFSA, I did provide links on the specific subsections where they did speak on each issue. And I kind of just, you know, summarized it so that people can get a quick read. It grasps their interest so that, you know, they don't think, oh, wow, this is like a super long, boring article that I have to read. It's something very quick that they can go through, and, you know, it gets their interest and it gets them to think, oh, wow, you know, maybe I should look into this to see how I can get help.
Yeah, we also started doing things like car insurance. I know many teens now are going through that. I had to go through
hundreds
that.
of dollars if you
Very scary.
If you pay every 6
scary.
months, thousands. It's a lot of money. You know, talking to your parents about it, figuring out also how to build a credit score. We've talked about how you should be using your credit card, also basic rights, constitutional, like you mentioned, and just things that students need to learn that you might not learn from your parents just because you might not know that you need to ask those things.
Or your parents just honestly might not know themselves. Like, for example, I know that even though my parents were born in this country, their parents were immigrants, and they were not taught a lot of things either by their parents or by school. They simply were not educated. And for example, you actually taught me this, that if you get really good grades, you can actually send that to whatever car insurance company you have, and you can get a reduced price. And I didn't even know that. And that's something that I feel like all students should know, all students and parents alike should be made aware of, because just because you were not taught that growing up, or you didn't have the privilege of having well-educated parents, or growing up in a very privileged area, doesn't mean that you should be at such a severe disadvantage.
And let's talk. I mean, you mentioned a lot of these things that maybe your parents haven't taught you, but these are also things that are not generally taught at school either.
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of these important things, like you mentioned, credit score and banking, personal finance. I know Florida just passed a financial literacy requirement,
Yes.
but for years, students, were not educated on these basic things that are going on, that are really the foundation of life. I mean, buying a home, buying a car, all these important things, building credit, insurance, taxes. These are a lot of concepts that generally aren't taught in school either.
For sure. Honestly, like, I'm, so like happy that in my high school I am taking an SLS class, and a part of both the dual enrollment curriculum and the regular high school SLS student life skills curriculum, they do teach you things like, creating like how to pay your mortgage, what an escrow account is, banking, how to pay your taxes, things like how to budget for monthly expenses and things like that. But I know for sure when my sister was in high school, which honestly was not that very long ago, maybe like 5 years ago, they didn't have that. And just because my high school has it doesn't mean that all high schools will. And we just want to be able to, reach out to anyone that might, need it and educate them on things that they might not be getting taught either at home or at their high school.
Yeah, very, 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 very important. And I just want to shout out, for the audience that's listening, some of the partners we've worked with that can help with all of these. One of them is the Educational Federal Credit Union, EdFed, which they're huge partners of Virtutem Populo, and they have many resources for students to open credit cards, debit cards, and many financial literacy resources as well. And you mentioned the SLS class you're taking, dual enrollment. We had the superintendent on back in our second episode ever, and he spoke about a lot of these dual enrollments opportunities that we had through Miami-Dade College, or some schools even through FIU. So I just wanted to ask you guys, what value do you see in taking advantage of these opportunities? Both of you guys are juniors at Barbara Goldman, and you mentioned some of the opportunities that you all have as Gators there when it comes to either APs or dual enrollments or anything. What value do you see in getting ahead educationally and taking advantage of those opportunities?
It's really important, because not only are you saving your own time, like there's plenty of people that are getting their bachelor's ahead of time, getting their associates while
saving
they're in
money.
High school, saving a whole lot of money that you wouldn't be saving any other place. And it's really helpful for people to not only get into that mindset sooner, because believe it, high schools don't prepare you for the real world. They might teach you things that you're going to be learning further in college, but they don't really prepare you for the real world. And that's really important when you're, turning 17, turning 18, and you're moving on. And on top of that, we have things like this, the opportunity for students to be able to go out into their own world and do something that they want to change, especially in Miami Lakes. So you can use the advantages of things that schools give you. You can start clubs, and you can do things with other people alike, and just change your future for the better, because things start now.
For sure. And also, like, I would just like to speak personally, like, taking AP classes, because they're at, like at a higher, like, I guess, they are harder classes.
More rigorous.
More rigorous. They are at a college level. It really, like, helps you, realize what it is that you want to do. I took AP World History freshman year. I took AP Environmental Science last year, and now I'm taking 4 APs, and next year I'll be taking another 4, and I'm taking a dual enrollment this year. It's really, like, helped me, first of all, learn how to pace myself, which is one thing that I think a lot of students should be learning in high school. I think all students should at least attempt to take one dual enrollment class or one AP class, you know what I mean? One thing my counselors always told me is, just try your best, because at the end of the day, it really has taught me how to pace myself, my workload. And honestly, I think if I would not have started off high school taking at least one AP class, I would not be where I am now, where I can be running a club, helping to run a nonprofit, and also taking so many classes and having a job. Like, all those things a lot of students are not prepared for, and those are things that you are going to be faced with once you do move on, into the real world, once you're in college, and once you need a part-time job, you're doing everything you can to make ends meet. And I think taking, like, rigorous classes does help you learn how to pace yourself and learn time management a lot better than normal honors classes will.
Absolutely. And I feel like for a lot of our students listening who are students within Miami-Dade County, I feel like our school district does a pretty good job at offering, like when I like travel outside of Miami and I speak to students who live in other counties and in other states, and I talk to them about some of the opportunities I've had here in Miami-Dade when it comes to the great partnership with Miami-Dade College, AP classes, different programs like that. They tell me, I wish my school had opportunities just like that. Like my school only offers 2 APs, or we don't even offer any dual enrollment, or we have to travel outside of school to take dual enrollment, which you can do in Miami-Dade as well. But many high schools offer dual enrollment on campus with like a teacher on your campus as well.
Which makes it a lot more accessible.
Absolutely.
For all students to
Absolutely. And on top of that, Miami-Dade pays for all their students' dual enrollment classes and AP test scores, which is something I never even, thought about until I was just last month. I was talking to some kids outside of from other states, and they told me, oh, well, isn't that expensive taking so many APs? And I was like, what do you mean? And they're like, well, the test, it's like $100 each or $79 each or something like that. Is. And I was like, wow, and you have to pay that? And they told me, yeah, I have to pay that. And I'm like, wow, no, our school district pays that for everybody.
Yeah.
So I feel like we're really blessed to be.
Yeah, the only reason that I ever found out about that was because one of my friends was thinking about dropping an AP class. And I was like, oh, yeah, just go talk to the counselor about it. And, I found out there was like a huge fee because of how expensive the test was.
Yeah, like you can go on OSP one time and I saw AP test and I was like, $100. Who is this for? Like,
yeah, and it was for people that were joining, I think it was AP seminar, like late. They were joining it, like, because another thing that I find, fascinating about, public schools in our area, Miami-Dade County, almost all my friends that go to either Goldman, HML, Tech, Matter, those magnet programs are honestly like great opportunities. I have a friend that I didn't even know they did this. They have a dentistry magnet over at Tech, and they practice on like mannequins with teeth and all that. And I think that's honestly fascinating. It really helps students like get a grasp of what they want to do in the future, and if like help them realize if this is really the path for them. You know what I mean? And I think that's honestly fascinating. The fact that like these are public schools, like that's some things that when I was younger I would have thought you only found in like super fancy private schools,
or comedian or something.
Exactly. Like I would have thought you only found that in super fancy private schools, but in reality, like we have it in our own school. I'm in the forensic science magnet where we have like so many opportunities. We dissect things. We have fake blood that we get to do experiments on. I think that's like super amazing.
Law Society or the Law Magnet literally has 2 courthouses. They're
they have 2 courtrooms, which is like unheard of. Like like other schools out of the state, they want to go to a courtroom, they have to go on a field trip to go do that. They maybe do it once a year, but at Goldman
it's right there,
a walk down the hallway. Literally a walk down the hallway.
And talk about innovation. HML actually next week. So what a lot of people don't know is that HML actually has a planetarium, like one of those things where you can go see stars, like one of those domes that the only other planetarium, cool. There's only I think 3 or 4 high schools in all of Florida that have a planetarium, and HML is one of them. But 20 years ago, it got shut down. I think there was like some fire or something happened. Yeah. And it got shut down and hasn't been reopened since. And the district just committed to actually fully renovating the planetarium.
That's amazing.
And next week, they're actually doing the groundbreaking. Our superintendent's coming, our board members, and they're going to groundbreak on construction. So like Miami-Dade has so much to offer, and our schools have so much to offer. But I would also say, I feel like for the most part, we have amazing students like you guys who, are taking that initiative in your clubs and in your community. So I just wanted to commend you all for that. And I wanted to ask you as well, I mean, the work we do at Virtutem Populo in regards to promoting civic engagement. And I've come to learn that it kind of falls on 2 stakeholders. Not only does it fall on the school or on government to provide opportunities, but it also falls on the students to take the initiative and take those opportunities on. So where do you guys kind of feel the balance is, and do you think whether our schools and government need to be doing a better job at civically engaging young people, or whether young people also need to be doing a better job at taking that initiative and being civically engaged?
I will say that I think for example, like not to hype up my own school, but a really good example is, for example, at Goldman, if there's a class that you really want to take, for example, AP Comparative Government. Currently, Goldman does not offer that class. However, the way that it works at our schools, if we talk to administrators about it, and if they're like, okay, get enough signatures, you find a teacher that's willing to teach the class and is certified to teach the class.
That's amazing. And
you get enough students that want to do it, and now we have about 40 students that have said that they want to take AP Comparative Government, and I think that is an amazing thing. And chances are all it has to do is one of our APs just has to say yep for sure, and we're gonna have that class next year. And so I think for sure it's a lot of students. If you want something, you have to go out and get it. You have to say like, I really want I really want to take this class, but you also need to know that it's okay to ask for help. It's okay to go to your APs and be like, hey, like, how can we get this done?
Yeah, like at the end of the day, at least our schools, they give you the opportunity of being able to go get classes that you don't have or start a club or whatever, but you need to actually go out and do it. At least in our community, they do an amazing job at having that opportunity. It's about going after it. Like, for example, Know Your Rights Weekly right now, we're trying to find grants in the area to become bigger, to start going to these local events and everything, but we need money for that. So we have to go out and find those things.
Yeah,
the fact of the matter is, it's there.
Yeah, and you really you need to be able to take initiative, but you also need to accept help. You know what I mean? Because I feel like a lot of times when you're like independent enough to start a nonprofit, just as we're doing, when you're independent enough to do something like that, sometimes it's hard to ask for help or realize or just admit that you don't know how to do something. For example, like we reached out to you, on getting started, like on like paperwork wise, so we can fundraise and things like that. And I feel like a lot of people, and the reason that a lot of like nonprofits and clubs don't get off the ground is because students don't know how to ask for help, or just don't want to, because they feel like they might not look smart enough, they might look like unintelligent or unprepared. And I think nobody's just born knowing everything. You need to go out and seek that wisdom. You need to ask other people that know more than you, essentially. But that's the only way that you're going to learn, and that's the only way that you're going to get things done. And I think people just need to not be embarrassed to ask for help, because that's the only way you can truly take initiative.
Absolutely. I always like saying, I'm not sure who first said this quote, but it's doors open to those who knock. Exactly. So, doors are not going to open by themselves. These opportunities aren't going to come your way. You actually have to take the initiative and go out and find them. And to that, I want to say 20 students who are listening, if you or anyone wants to start some type of passion project, or feels like they have an amazing idea on how to make positive change in their community, please reach out. We have so many resources available, and I not only speak on behalf of me and on behalf of Virtutem Populo, but I'm sure Alyson or Vanessa, they would be more than happy to help any other students who have an amazing idea and they want to make a difference in their community. I feel like, us students, we got to stick together and we got to help others, move along as well. And sometimes I feel like students have great ideas, they just don't know how to get started, and they don't know where to start.
Yeah, of course. That's like, for example, we're hoping that eventually, like once we get, big enough in our newsletter and stuff, we are actually, planning on like reaching out a little bit more, not only to students, but also to adults. For example, I know just like family wise, a lot of people who work like in law, who are paralegals, who are lawyers, have their own law firms, and I'm hoping to work with them so that they can tell me how to help, reach out to people, or give them an opportunity to, seek legal help, like give me resources that I can give out to people, or maybe put up on our website or on our Instagram, so that if anyone needs like legal advice or anything like that, they know where to go and where they can get it if they don't have like a bajillion dollars to pay for it. Because that's another thing, our nonprofit is not entirely about the students, it's the community in general. Because I have family that they're like, I have family members who are 70 years old, and currently they're like dealing with getting their wills in check and stuff, and they have no idea how to do that because they came to this country with nothing, and they have no idea how to do that, and they're scared. They don't know what they're going to do, and they don't know how to reach out and get that help. So our goal is to help everyone of all ages within the community, on getting anything that they might need, like legal representation and such.
That's a beautiful goal. And just as we're about to wrap up, I always like asking all of our guests, and I'll ask it to both of you as well. Is there one particular moment of your life that you look back to and kind of you're like, well, that really inspired me to do what I do now? Or is there anything you would ever go back and change? So, is there a specific moment like that for either of you?
I think I can speak for at least me and Alyson that at least for me, freshman year was not a good start. I didn't care a lot about school. I wasn't trying. And over that summer, I was just like not doing much. And I felt very static. And in that moment, that kind of just made me snap. And I was like, I'm going to try my hardest in school. I started thinking about things I could do outside of school. I started joining clubs. I started this nonprofit with Alyson, and yeah, it's just that moment in freshman year when it kind of just clicks that my future's in my hands in this moment.
Yeah, for sure. And I think for me it was on a more like a personal sense, just the fact that I have, you know, seen other people that I know personally, like in my family, like my cousin, she's a huge like activist on getting help for people, like legal representation for those who cannot afford it. And when Vanessa came to me with this idea on a way that we can reach out to people, I was like, you know, wow, like, you know, this is our chance to truly make a difference, you know, and also like help represent students while we're at it, because a lot of students, you know, don't have the courage or just like the resources to do what we're doing now.
Absolutely. Well, thank you guys so much for coming on. Just for anybody listening, how can they reach out to you guys? How can they find you guys on social media or anything like that?
We're everywhere on Instagram. We're Know Your Rights Weekly, or we have a link tree on our Instagram with everything we have. We have a TikTok on there. We have our website there. We have a LinkedIn.
Everything is going to be linked in our Instagram bios. So it's at Know Your Rights Weekly, spelled out fully, no capitals, exactly like that. And there's a link to our website that has all of our old blog posts. Anything we've ever put up is on there, as well as, you know, the highlights on our Instagram, etc.
And our email is knowyourrightsweekly@gmail.com.
Awesome. Well, thank you guys so much for coming on. This has been the Civic Action Podcast. We want to give a special thank you to the Miami Lakes Chamber of Commerce and Miami Lakes Mayor Manny Sid for letting us use his studio. What do you guys think? It's in a great studio, right?
It's great. It's
beautiful.
Really nice.
It's beautiful.
So we're very happy to be here. You can find us on social media at Virtutem _Populo, and we'll catch you at the next episode of the Civic Action Podcast. Thank you all.